Welcome to the Truth Podcast. I'm your host, Hany Rambod, and I have somebody very special here today. Everybody's special that comes here to the podcast, but we got a young buck.
Young buck.
Vaughn Walker.
Mr.
Vaughn Street himself.
Mr. Vaughn Street. Is this a perfect time to whip him out?
That's it. Just whip it out, brother. Those are all gonna be left here, by the way, because that's the cost of the price you have to pay of admission, is you have to leave something here. So hopefully you know that you're not walking away with that.
I was prepared to leave these anyways. So.
Okay. Are those the regular or are those the fruity?
The bottom is the original, and then the top is the fruity cereal.
Perfect.
So,
Perfect.
Yeah, a little bit of both for you.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah. Appreciate that.
Of course.
So, Mr. Vaughn Walker, welcome to. Is this your first time in Texas?
Not first time in Texas. First time in Dallas.
First time in Dallas.
So, yeah, and the spot we're staying in, I wish we had a little. I should have talked to you instead of Calvin, because we are staying in it's such a ghetto spot.
Really,
it's a nice house, but it's like it's like a sore thumb, just like sticking out in the middle of this ghetto neighborhood. So it's very interesting. But yeah, we have to tour like downtown Dallas or a nice area before we head out. So
yeah, you definitely the Irving area and this area on the west side. There's a couple areas. There's areas. There's good and bad anywhere you go.
Oh yeah,
but sure. So was it just like people breaking into cars? I mean, like how when you say bad, it's like where were you? Where did Calvin send you?
So he said that we were going to be training down at AR. So
which you did. You got a chance to go training.
Yeah. But it seemed like we were going to be training there every single day, like all of us. So we picked a house close to there.
Oh, because Calvin thought that that was.
I mean, we're still like.
I also think that they were waiting for my equipment, and I don't think that they realized that the equipment was coming in, and there's a miscommunication.
So we're still like a good 15 minutes from there, but it's like we go down like this back road, and it's like every single house looks like a trap house, and I'm like, shit, like this is where we're staying.
In North Richland Hills?
It's Haltom City.
Okay, so it's not far from there.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's not the best area. At least it doesn't look like the best area.
Yeah, you probably, and there's pockets, right?
Yeah,
there's
for
pockets.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, you haven't been mugged.
No, not yet. We still have one more day, so hey.
That's hilarious. Yeah. That's hilarious. But the heat, how is the heat compared to Florida?
Florida is, I don't know, it's a lot more humid.
Yeah.
But it's just like you walk outside and you feel like the sun is just beating on you.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think I would rather have this than the humidity, because down in Florida, I step out of my apartment for like a good 2-3 minutes and I'm drenched in sweat. So,
right. Yeah. I was like that too a couple of weeks ago when I went to go see Chris. It was like the minute you walk out, within 2 minutes, you're just dripping. And it is a little bit of Indian summer here, and it's supposed to be down into the 80s next week.
You said Indian summer?
Indian summer.
What does that mean?
Indian summer usually means that it's later in the summertime. You still have the hot, not just peak summer, but they call it Indian summer. It's later in summer where it's still hot.
Gotcha. So is the environment here similar to Florida, where it's like it doesn't get too cold, but it's like
it'll snow here.
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it snowed. It's been snowing here pretty much every year, but it's a matter of whether it's a day or two. I know right before I moved here, they had Snowmageddon, where there was like a week or two where there was like ice in the roads. Nobody was traveling.
Oh, wow.
A bunch of power outages because there was a ton of ice storms.
Okay.
It was like ice and snow and everything else. Last year was kind of cool because Cameron loved it. There was like an inch or two of snow on the ground, a couple inches that stuck. And then they were sledding behind the Raptor where they tied the rope. And then they took a sled, and then they were driving up and down the street, and there was nobody in the streets.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah, so it was like snow day for a couple of days. And because where are you originally from?
Originally from Jersey.
So in Jersey it snows.
Yeah, I'm used to the snow. We would do the same thing. Like growing up, I had like a snowboard, and we would hook it up to the back of my buddy's car, and we would just go all through the neighborhood, do that same thing. So I'm used to the snow, and especially growing up, my family had a house in Vermont.
Yeah.
So we'd be snowboarding and skiing and doing the Snowmageddon thing all the time. Yeah. So yeah.
That's awesome.
I'm used to the snow.
Well, you're, 24 now?
24. I just turned 24 in July. So.
Right. Where did you get your pro card?
When?
Yeah.
I was 22.
22. In what division?
Men's physique.
In physique.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit, because not everyone who is watching this podcast or is listening to it really knows who you are, right? Especially because there's a lot of people that follow me that are used to open guys, With you went from physique to classic. Have you done your classic competition yet?
So my first show like my first ever show, I competed in both men's physique and classic.
Right.
And that was kind of where we decided for that NPC show where I got my pro card that we were only going to do men's physique, because when I got on stage, competed with classic, I just couldn't really hang with those guys, even though it was like a very beginner show.
Right.
Like my legs just weren't there. So competed in physique there, did decent. Also did classic, not the best. So at the time, my coach was like, you just need to put all your eggs in one basket.
Who are you working with?
At the time, I was with Kyle Wilkes.
Okay.
Yeah. Right now, I'm with Jansen.
Okay. With Matt.
Yeah. So at the time, like I said, put all the eggs into one basket with physique. And I'm really happy that we did that, because after I saw the guys who were standing on stage at the NPC qualifier or that show, those were pretty big guys. And like, I definitely wouldn't even came close to getting my pro card there. But we just muscled out with men's physique, and I got my pro card. So that was my first prep that we did that. So it was like a very big eye opener, but learned the ropes a little bit. So it was good experience.
Well,
sure.
And the big thing is that I know you through Chris, right, and through Raw. How long have you been with Raw?
So I believe it's been like almost 2 years now, a year and a half, 2 years. But shortly before I competed in that first show, I moved down to Florida and I joined the Raw team, I guess you would say. I believe I came down late February, early March.
So Chris was already there at that point.
Yeah, yeah. And right when I got down, I kind of just hopped right into prep. So it was all pretty fast paced, but it worked out. So
yeah. Well, how did you guys end up working it out? Because for me, was it more of a personal relationship first, or did they come over? Because we're doing some question and answers, and I'm going to go ahead and pull those up pretty soon. But one of them that came to mind that just dawned on me was the fact that you're kind of known because of the fact that you have done such a good job on social media, and you're also with Young LA. We were just together in LA at the block party in Long Beach, and you're one of the few guys that actually competes, right? Because you had like the Trend Twins, you have Sush, you have several others that are just pure influencers, like Sizzy and all the guys. Well, actually, Sizzy competes in natural bodybuilding, but in terms of where you're at, you're also part of the Young LA team. Were you considering yourself an influencer first and then you started competing, or vice versa?
I guess it would definitely have been like an influencer, because obviously I started out just posting like random content, not lifestyle, like training content, but it wasn't anywhere close to like competition or bodybuilding or anything like that. It was just like training clips, some other bullshit content.
I love how you're straight up. It was bullshit content.
Yeah, I mean, like, I feel like you scroll through social media and it's like, I just wasted my time watching that 8-second video or 10-second video. So it was kind of just like, I wouldn't say filler content, but it was just like stuff that I wasn't like really passionate about. But I kind of converted into like that more like bodybuilding side after I competed, and I loved it. So pushing content like that is something I actually enjoy. So yeah, I guess that would be, I guess you could call it bullshit content. If you don't really enjoy doing something, it's kind of bullshit.
Well, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Do you think it's bullshit because you are not passionate about what you're doing with the content? Are you just doing it for the sake of doing it, or is it because of the fact that it's just kind of, you're not comfortable with it?
I think it's more the fact that like, obviously this is like the influencer side of like my life is kind of like a job, but if I'm pushing content that I'm not like excited to make or like genuine with, then I feel like it's kind of like almost pointless to make. But doing more like training videos, bodybuilding type videos, I really enjoy doing that. It's something I'm passionate about.
So that's what your passion is.
So yeah, exactly.
But when what are the pieces that you're not passionate about, but you feel like you have to do just to be able to fill in? Because every influencer / anybody that's doing anything in this industry has those different episodes of, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a any kind of portion of their YouTube series, there's certain favorites. What are the ones that are not your favorite? Because the ones that you mentioned are your passion, right? The training stuff.
Yeah. So the stuff that I really don't enjoy is like that, like the short form, like either like TikTok or like even sometimes like Instagram. It's like stuff that I'm really not like 100% about, and it's kind of almost like I see it as like filler content a little bit.
Right.
That stuff I'm not truly passionate about making, so it's almost like sometimes I wish that like I wouldn't post that and only focus on the bodybuilding stuff, but
it's a balancing act, brother.
Yeah, for
it
sure.
Really is. It really is. I think with anything, it's a balancing act, and I think that when you're doing certain things, it's almost like, and this is I'm obviously doing it too. I'm learning to not try to micromanage my team in terms of saying, hey, look, I hate doing this. I just let them post. I just give them the phone. Go, here you go. Yeah. Do the post, because I'm going to sit there and be like, I don't know if that picture's good. I don't know if that copy is good. When it comes to basic things, like posting about our podcasts, right? When I do, Hunter was here. I had, Andrew Jacked here. And sometimes it's not always the most flattering picture, or the lighting could be a little bit darker, or like I said, the studio's still not completed. And I'm just like, hey, well, we should just wait till everything's done. Well, the gym isn't done, but we still trained in it. I still got 50 more pieces.
I mean, it's still a beautiful gym. So
yeah, I'm pretty proud of it. But it's one of those things that you're always trying to create that best form. But when you're someone like me who always picks things apart and I find flaws, I have to try to back that off too.
Yeah, I feel like that's why I'm such a hard critic, because I feel like I'm a bit of, especially like going through the process of like building the treats company and this and that, I feel like I've really learned that I'm a like very hard perfectionist. And if I'm not 100% about it, I feel like it's kind of bullshit.
Right.
So that could just be like my view on things. Like if I'm not like I said, 100% into it, or like 100% with it, then I'm going to see it in a different light almost. So
no, and I think that's really important. And I think that sometimes I always say it's about horseshoes and hand grenades, getting close. You don't have to be at 100%, 90%, 85% of certain things when you're talking about labels and manufacturing, because if it's going to push it back and you're got a launch date and you're trying to just make sure that there's an icon that's perfect, because you want to be able to just change just slightly the color or this, that, I have to say, you know what? It's close enough. I don't have to worry about the color of this packaging. It's a close enough red. It's a close enough blue. There's something that's, I like the Skittles looking candy to fly through here, and there's a little bit of a shading difference. And it's like, okay, if I'm going to push this back 2 weeks and I'm going to blow the launch, at the end of the day, it's close enough. Okay. We're not talking about a formulation difference here. We're not talking about things that are going to really matter. Only I am going to find that out.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So
you're like that too?
Oh, for sure. At the beginning, about like right when we launched, we got the labels in, and that was a hefty process itself. So we were waiting a decent amount of time, and we finally got them in. We're finally ready to drop the bars, and our manufacturer sends me a picture of the labels, and I'm like, that's not what we ordered. That's like not even close to what it looks like.
Really?
Yeah. So this is kind of just like, it's like a pink with like a different shade, like a salmon pink. And the ones we got, it was like a very bright, like
a Barbie
pink.
Ooh.
And chrome. And I'm like, that's not even close. And like, I was like,
did they do the whole run?
They did the whole run.
Holy shit. So what'd you do?
I was like, this is like out of my control at this point. We just need to launch the company.
Did you launch it that way?
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
And then fix it on the next run.
And then fix it on the next run. So like, I thought it was the end of the world, but people started trying the bars, and like they actually liked them. And even I got a bunch of feedback saying, like, cause I posted about it, and like I wasn't happy with the wrappers, and they were wrong and this and that. And people were saying, oh, I think the wrappers are awesome. But just because the way like,
isn't that crazy?
It wasn't how
Isn't that crazy how you
yeah.
think about that, and then other people come back over the top and they're like, "No, dude, this is really nice."
Yeah,
But because it wasn't
perfect. What I envisioned.
Exactly.
So I was like, "This is I'm like, this is horrible." So, but it ended up.
Did you
were
like up all night?
Yeah, I was stressing. So my cortisol was through the roof.
Were you prepping at the time?
No. Thank God, no.
Well, and again, as a young entrepreneur, normally doing a treat, doing a bar, doing any of these things, these projects, it's really difficult to do alone. So one thing I do want to be able to share with the audience, because you're doing this process and you're in the middle of the process, you have 2 flavors that you launched. What are the 2 flavors?
So we have fruity cereal. That's pretty much like a fruity pebble-based Rice Krispie.
Okay. And
then we have the original marshmallow.
Okay.
It kind of mimics a Rice Krispie, but it's denser, has like a nice bite to it, and it's I feel like you can kind of label it as like a gourmet Rice Krispie treat, just because the texture, it's weird to say it like this, but it feels gourmet compared to a regular Rice Krispie.
Regular Rice Krispie is like a little more gooey.
Yeah,
and this has
this is a bit creamier and just like denser. And I think they're
it's definitely denser.
Yeah. So
they taste good. My thing is that when you started this, did you go, because Dom's part of this, you and who else?
Chris.
Yeah. Okay. And did they come to you with this idea, or did you go to them with the idea?
I mean, it's actually a funny story. Me and Dom and I, we went to get a tattoo together. And during the ride,
to go get matching tattoos?
We did get matching tattoos.
Way.
Yeah. I mean, they're not identical, but same concept. And we got like a raw tattoo together. But
I'm gonna make all me and Derek and Hany have to go get even tattoos.
But we were sitting in a little bit of traffic going to the tattoo parlor.
Yeah.
And we just had a like basic conversation that turned into like this vast idea of how I come from a family who has like their own businesses and like they're very self-made, and I kind of want to I want to follow in my mom, my dad's footsteps. So I told him about that and how I wanted to have something for myself, and we kind of just started brainstorming while we were sitting in traffic. And Rice Krispies were kind of like the talk of the town at the time because
and this is how long ago?
Media, this was a little bit over a year ago.
Okay.
So probably like a year and a few months, but we were, or at least at the time, at least they were like popping on social media, like a Rice Krispie treat's what you have before you work out, gives you a great pump. So that's kind of what we slid into, but it's very like with it labeled as Vaughn'S treats and not Rice Krispie, Vaughn'S Rice Krispies, we can build out the brand into something more than Rice Krispies. Like our next product is going to be a chocolate covered pretzel. We're going to do our chocolate covered protein pretzel. And then we have a whole bunch of other ideas that we want to look into as well.
Okay.
But yeah,
kind of expand the line.
Yeah, it's going to be.
But when you did that, to go over details, because again, there's not very often does somebody come in and be like, "Hey, man, I'm going to have my own treat," and this is kind of like a sub company. You came with the idea. You guys were talking about it, and then who financed it?
So all three of us put money into the business.
Okay.
And from there, obviously, pay for the wrappers, pay for the people working with us, pay for the people who help build the brand. And then obviously you got to place the PO. And all of that together, like we were able to break it up evenly.
Okay.
Since it's like a 3-way split.
Okay.
So we all put in the same amount of money. And from there, obviously after the first run, I think we sold out that first time, the first drop. Just put that money right back into the company, and we kind of just kept doing that until now. So
that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome. And what did you think that they saw in you to be able to do this as a partnership, this project, this side business that they were going to be able to invest into you? What was it that you think that they saw in you that they were willing to do that?
I feel like that's more a question for them, but like off the top of my head, I feel like they saw me because this is something we talk about a lot. And especially to the people who like we try to bring onto the company now, they really like people who they can see as like family or somebody they can hang out with on the weekends and not only not use them, but have them in like a work environment. They want to see them as like a part of like their life, So I was able to click with them very well. We seem to be like all very similar people, and we're all like-minded as well.
It's so important for you to be able to get along with people, not just in the business, but also outside of the business.
For sure,
when you're going to do any kinds of partnerships or investing into each other, because it's one of those things where you really need to be able to connect with that person or that group of people.
Yeah. So like I said, I feel like it's almost like they saw me as like one of them, so they wanted to kind of like just bring me along the process, and like I'm very grateful for everything they've done for me. So everybody over there is awesome.
So I know they love the hell out of you, but do you think also is there a level of expectation? Because I know that some people will go, hey, you're like the junior C-bomb, right? And they're seeing, whether it's the beard, whether it's the
similar appearance, look. Obviously, I'm nowhere close to his size or stature or anything. But,
right.
Yeah, it's very.
But you look pretty good in the workout today. You got a little.
You said I looked not horrible. So.
That's my go-to, guys. That's my go-to. Actually, no, you got a really sick pump. We did chest today, and we're going to be dropping that video because went into the new gym here in the Evagen headquarters where it's all Panada, and we just yet to be able to really put any photos out yet. You're going to be seeing it very, very soon.
You're gatekeeping it pretty well.
Yeah, it's on lock.
Yeah.
It's been on lock. But I also have 50 more pieces coming in the next week, and I'm super excited. But as you said, it's still a great gym.
Oh, it's beautiful, yeah.
And
I feel like even if you didn't get the 50 pieces, that's more than enough. So
it probably is, but I'm all about overkill. Right.
Hey, I could tell with the Lamborghini or the Bugatti seats.
The Bugatti Lamborghini combo seats that everybody jokes about, but it's got the blue stitching with the blue piping and then the custom blue paint on the Panada equipment. I think it came out really, really good. But I think that the biggest thing is that, you get 3D, you got in Fuller, but was it also an expectation that you were going to kind of take over the reins from Chris at some point or become a similar type of athlete? Well, what do you think?
I think it's less of like becoming a similar type of athlete and being more of a similar type of person.
Okay.
Because Chris himself, like, obviously I look up to him a lot and so do many other people. So just to have somebody who is similar to that, I feel like that's very important. So having that part or that person in the company, I don't think he's going to step down or retire anytime soon, but just to have like another person like that, I think it's really important. So
does that put more pressure on you though?
Yeah, for sure. It's Chris Bumstead. He's a huge name.
Right.
So
when is your next show?
Next show, I don't have a set date yet, but like I said, when I get back to Florida, I'm going to start pushing the off season like heavily. And I want to stay in that for a solid like year and a half, 2 years, just to grow, get big enough. Because I went to the Arnold Classic this past year. Those Classic guys were huge. Like just standing next to them, I'm like, I'm nowhere near that big.
Yeah, they're big.
So yeah,
and now they're getting bigger because now
the weight cap went up.
What do you think about that? I'd love to hear your take on the changes in the weight cap.
See, I don't. Since I'm fairly new to the sport, I'm not too sure on how everything with that works. And like, obviously, like I had a set weight cap, but when I competed, I was nowhere near that. When I was on stage, I was 179.
And what was your weight cap?
For Classic, it's 197.
And what is it now?
I believe it went up 6-7 pounds.
Okay.
So
in the low 200s.
Yeah, low 200s, but that just means I still have plenty of size to put on.
Yeah.
At least like solid, dense.
And what do you weigh
tissue.
now?
Right now I'm like 215.
Okay.
But I believe the majority of that is like, obviously it's a little bit more muscle.
Right.
But water weight, a little bit of fat. So yeah, I definitely have a little bit more size to play around with. So I think that off season is really going to help me out, put on a bunch of like quality tissue.
Do you think that when you are in the gym and you see Chris, do you feel like do you try to go in there when he's in there because it's more motivating when he's in there? Or is that something that you don't even think about and you just focus on whatever you're doing at the time?
I kind of just like lock in and just focus on myself. When I get into the gym, it's kind of like we film and do our thing, but I try to just like stay in my lane, not worry too much about like what's going on outside of that. But obviously when he's in there, it's a huge motivation. I look at him like, wow, I'm fucking small. So it's just that it pushes you that much harder to do. Do
you guys ever train together?
We do occasionally, yeah.
Okay.
But now that he has that new spot, I don't even know if I could talk about that.
Yeah,
that new spot.
Yeah, he's got a new spot.
Yeah.
He's got a new little underground gym.
Yeah. So
the lair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you checked that out yet?
Yeah, I've seen in the build out what they were working on, but I haven't been to it because the last time I was there, we were at Raw.
Gotcha.
And went to the Raw gym, which is a really cool gym too. But I totally understand it. Everybody wants to kind of be in their own personal space, and that's why utilizing public gyms is a bit difficult, even if it is part of your own entity and the companies that that you're working with and partners in. It's difficult because at the end they're still allowed to bring in people, and so you just don't have complete control like you would if it's your own gym.
Yeah. What do you think about like at least big names, like when they get closer to the like show dates? How do you think training in like a public setting affects them throughout their prep?
I think it could be good or bad. I think normally the good part of it sometimes is just being around people. Sometimes can be good, but sometimes it can be very distracting because people are constantly, hey, can I get a picture? Especially with somebody like Chris, where he's got 18 million plus followers. You tend to have a lot of people that just care about getting that selfie, and they don't look at it like, hey, look, this guy's still trying to do his job.
Yep.
But it's weird because no other sport do you have the ability to have access. You don't. If Tom Brady is training, he's training at the Tampa Bay facility, like if he's
private
playing.
facility.
Right, it's a private facility, right? So it's not like he's going to 24-hour fitness and training or Gold's and he's training, and then you can just be like, oh, there's Tom Brady, right? But I remember when The Rock used to train a lot over at Gold's in Venice, and people would come up to him, and again, he was before he was really blown out and big in terms of like Hollywood, and it was right around the time where I believe it was Scorpion King, and it was before that hit, and he had just lost size for Hollywood. And I remember people just wouldn't recognize him. And so part of it was that. Part of it was just in between kind of going from wrestling to Hollywood. And Hollywood hadn't blown up yet on that side.
Yeah, yeah.
And he could go to Gold's all the time and train. And it wasn't a big deal. I'm sure people would take pictures with him that recognized him. But it wasn't a big deal. Now, Dwayne, DJ can't go to 90% of places because it just becomes, it's just like it's going to be so overwhelming. Yeah. It's really hard to.
Well, he is 100+ million followers, so
300+ million.
Yeah,
300 million.
I feel like everybody is going to recognize him, so that's got to be a hassle.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and
so it becomes a major thing. So I mean, you got to go places with security. You got to do all of these things, and it becomes a real pain in the ass. So you got to be careful what you wish for, because when it comes to just workouts, and you just say, I'm just going to go fly in somewhere, I'm going to do an appearance. Now I can go over to this local gym. It doesn't just become a thing. You have to, have security team go. They have to just clear it with the owner. We're going to have so-and-so here for an hour or two. Are you okay with it? We just want to be able to maybe go through a back entrance. We're going to do this or that, so that person can smoothly just get a workout in.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's a public gym. These members are allowed to be there.
Yep. And
so it's really hard to say no to photographs. But that person that's training for the Olympia or wherever, they're focusing on what their task is, which is, I need to be able to get this amazing workout in so that I can be able to hit my goal of looking my best on stage. So I think it becomes a bit difficult in public settings, especially as you get closer to the Olympia.
Yeah.
So it does become a bit of a grind.
I'm sure it's a hassle.
It does. I mean,
especially when you're on those like death calories, or you're just feeling like shit one day, and it's like having to take a picture. I'm sure that's not somebody who's Olympia ready. Like, I don't think they would want to do that.
No, I mean, you don't want to sit there and because then when you do one picture, then another person comes over, then you got 20 or 30 people, and then you're trying to duck out, and then if someone was waiting for a half hour, 40 minutes, an hour sometimes, then they feel like they were kind of,
probably shoots the cortisol up too.
Yeah, gets you a little stressed out. You're already worried about just getting whatever it is.
Yeah.
But it is something that I feel like a lot of athletes do well with. But I feel like as social media is growing, the influx of people wanting to be able to just do selfies and do pictures and do that, they're become more so now than it was 10 years ago. I remember training with Jay or Phil, and people would come over and take pictures, and they would want to do something. But now, because of the social media / YouTube generation, you have way more engagement with followers. So they're just like, dude, I got to go get a picture with this guy. And it could be somebody who doesn't even compete. Like in Young LA, how many people are part of Young LA that don't even compete, but they have huge followings?
I feel like the majority don't compete.
That's right.
So I feel like bodybuilding and the like influencer realm is kind of slim to none compared to like the lifestyle people. So yeah, it's just bodybuilding is like a different monster in that sense. So
yeah, do you feel like that the people in the influencer space respect the bodybuilders more or less?
I feel like it definitely depends on the person.
Okay.
Because if it's somebody who's like Jay or Ronnie, or even somebody who's not competing anymore, obviously I think everybody looks up to them, like especially as just like a person, a competitor, and even if you're not into bodybuilding, like who they are. So they're just a huge name, But if it's, I don't know, I feel like if somebody's not into competing or bodybuilding, they could probably look at it and in like a certain light that's not like not that it's not respectful or in like a negative way, but they might just not be into bodybuilding. So they just see it like in a different light.
Well, I'll tell you what, I know a lot of bodybuilders who hate influencers.
Yeah, I feel like that.
That's more the other way.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think if people ask me, and I go, look, it's almost like two different professions, right? When you're an influencer and you're a heavy hitter, right? When you have an hour, 2 hour line and you've never stepped on stage before, but I almost relate it to like a reality show star, right? You're like on a reality show and people come over there. And I remember the big reality show when I was coming up, it was like Jersey Shore.
Oh, yep.
Right?
Yep.
Do you remember that one? I know you're a little bit young, but Jersey Shore.
The Jersey Shore house, I think that was like 35 minutes from where I lived in Jersey.
Really?
But yeah, so I'm very familiar with that.
Where was that? Seaside?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so that was the thing. So if, Paulie or, any of those guys, Ronnie, anybody they would go over Snooki. Yeah. They were like, if they went to a club, they would do these club appearances, right? And then the clubs would sell out. Come see Snooki, come party with Snooki, and then Paulie became a DJ, I believe. Yeah. Right? I mean,
I feel like his name especially is like, if he was going to do a club appearance now, and if he DJ'd there, it'll get sold out. Just because
so he's still that hot.
I think so, yeah.
But look, I mean that's amazing because he has an afterlife.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Where some of the other ones not so much. I don't know. Snooki became a mom. I don't know if I think she did another show. But my whole point is that I feel that influencers now in fitness, and after seeing the Young LA event, being at the Young LA event, meeting with fans, seeing the interaction, when we go to the Olympia and we go to the Arnold, people are there. They're a bit older, okay, 25 plus normally. When you're so these are the major differences I saw. The people that were going in and following the Trend Twins or any of the guys that are in that Young LA group that we were all, crowd. It's a super young crowd, like 13. Yeah. 13, 14. And it's that crowd that is way different because those types of 13, 14-year-olds are not looking at Hany or Derek.
No.
They're not following them for that.
Well, right? I feel like they look at like Hany or Derek and they're like, that's not even human.
Right. It's like almost unattainable. Yeah. And then when they look at these other people, again, the Trend Twins don't even compete, at least not yet. I know they're talking about possibly.
I think they would do well.
Yeah.
They're
stacked.
Kids, yeah.
But the whole point is people don't respect them because of what they've done on stage. They respect them and they like them because they're fans of them and their channel. Yeah. So when you're seeing these people, whether it's IG, whether it's YouTube, there's a big difference. And that's why they have a younger demographic. And the future of this is split in two. You have an influencer / reality style TV person. And that's, again, the YouTube channels of all of these different people that are a part of that. I mean, even Alex Eubank, right? Super nice guy. And we were talking, and his line's crazy. And, again, I don't think he's ever competed.
He hasn't.
There you go. But
I feel like you got to look at it this way, too, because I wouldn't say, like, older generation, but the older people who are on social media, TikTok, Instagram, they definitely spend less time out of their day scrolling, going through everything, catching up on everything, while 13, 14-year-olds, I feel like they're like glued to their phone at this point.
Right.
Even if they're in school, they have like 2 minutes to do something, whip their phone out, just scroll for a little bit, put it down, pick it back up again 2 seconds later. So they're definitely on social media a lot more than the older crowd. So I feel like since they are seeing these names and faces just more often, they're gonna like congregate and like follow them a lot more.
Right. Yeah. They got that connectivity. Because they're super fans and they're super sticky fans. Yeah. Where they want to go in there, and then also that's why they buy their merch.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. So what about you? One of the questions was, when is your next merch drop?
So the first time I did merch, it was absolutely a nightmare. It was.
What'd you do? T-shirt?
We did 3 different shirts, and we ran it out of the same people who produced the raw merch. But there were different people who packed the orders, sent out the orders, and throughout that process, the shirts came out beautiful. Okay. I love the shirts, but I hired a few people to send out this stuff.
I'm just waiting for the nightmare part of the story.
I think it was more than half of the people who ordered something got the wrong size, wrong shirt, or just didn't get anything at all.
Somebody just screwed up.
So yeah, it was completely messed up. It was a total nightmare. I really enjoyed doing it, but it rubbed me the wrong way. I
When was
needed a
this?
break from that. That was right after my show,
And that was
or
how
right
long ago?
before it. Probably a year and a half.
Okay. But you've done drops since then?
No.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
it
man.
scared the shit out of me because there was a lot of money. Like, I had to return a lot of people's money, and like, I feel like after that, people started looking at me in a bad way because obviously it's
a reflection
merchandise.
on you.
Yeah. So it really scared me because
Yeah.
I didn't want, if I did another drop and it was even worse, or I just needed a little break because I knew that we were coming out with these,
Right.
and I didn't want people to get the wrong impression of me if I kept putting out this. I felt like it was almost like
Subpar
faulty.
quality.
Yeah, it was just like bad. It was a bad look on me.
Right.
So I want to make sure these came out in like a positive light,
Sure.
rather than a negative light. So I kind of just paused that whole process, but we're definitely going to look into doing like merch or something for Vaughn'S Treats, which is going to be really cool.
Well, that's good because that was one of the questions that we got was when's your next merch drop? Because it's been a year and a half.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be for the treats first.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. What does somebody who's listening to this podcast that wants to be an entrepreneur, what would you do different now that you're about a year into this now?
Yeah.
And I think you launched how many months ago when the product actually dropped?
I believe it was in April.
Mm-hmm.
So at least as far as doing something different.
Yeah. What were some key takeaways that you would do different, or something that you could be able to share with the listeners? Because you're an entrepreneur, you've launched this bar. What is it that you feel like you could have done a little bit different that you, looking back at it? I know it's super new still, but is there anything that comes to mind?
Yeah, definitely. I believe the way we marketed it, it was kind of like, since it is connected through like Raw and Revive, like it has the same owners, but obviously it's a different product.
Okay.
So I came into this thinking that it was like already an established process, because even our Instagram following shot up really quick. We had a bunch of followers following it, but the marketing wasn't really there to kind of expand to that, and it kind of only marketed towards that fan base we already had.
Okay.
So it was like really cool product photos or really cool like lifestyle photos with the bar, and it wasn't really we really didn't focus on the bar itself, how it tasted, that kind of content until recently, and we noticed that the engagement of that, like we just posted something, I believe it was 2 days ago, somebody trying the bars,
Okay.
and that did really well.
Was that a video or was that a picture?
It was a video.
Okay.
But we focused on kind of like that Nike style content, where obviously they're already a huge brand, and they can put like half of the swoosh in the check mark in a picture, and you're like, oh, that's Nike.
Right.
But if we put the bar in like somebody's pocket, they're gonna be like, what is that?
Right.
Like, I can't really tell what it is.
Because it's
I
not
don't know what it is.
recognizable yet.
Exactly, yeah. So we kind of just need to pump out more content like that, focusing on the bar, how people like it, and gear it more towards that rather than that already like established name sort of content.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a little bit more of the product focus and the differences between that and the competition, maybe, or the taste, and being able to get more user-generated stuff.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Do you feel like you could have done anything different in regards to, if you like the drops? I know, did you started with one and then went to two, or did you start with both?
We started with two.
Oh, you started with two.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you have done it any different?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, I wish we had like 3 or 4 flavors, because I feel like I'm a huge chocolate guy, and the one thing we couldn't really nail down was that good chocolate flavor.
Yeah.
So we started with these two, and I feel like the one thing that is missing is that dynamic of the treat is
a little more chocolatey.
that different kind of sweet tooth. Like obviously the fruity cereal, that hits very nicely if you need that like sweet craving. But I feel like chocolate is just different. Like everybody loves chocolate. So I wish we did have a chocolate bar, but I'm really happy with how everything's gone so far.
No, man, I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
I mean, you couldn't got together with a better group of guys.
Oh,
and
yeah,
they
they're
have,
awesome.
Dom is awesome, and he's got a great track record. And then you have, Chris, which is, I can't even.
Yeah, Chris is Chris.
Chris is 800-pound gorilla when it comes
Yeah.
to that type of thing. Yeah. Being able to be a part of that, and being able to do that. But here's my thing. Do you feel that now, because I think now that you're like an owner, do you feel that also the stress of being an owner also hurts you as being an athlete?
Yeah, it does.
It's kind of weird, right?
Yeah, I mean, at least the way that I look at it is, so now I'm in the office a majority of the day, and whether that be for like meetings or something else, I feel like my presence, I just need to be there.
Yeah.
So instead of going to the gym, filming stuff, getting other sorts of content, I kind of need to push that off till the end of the day.
Right.
And that really, I haven't found like a balanced schedule yet, but I need to learn how to still include that influencer style, lifestyle or whatever into the business side of it, just because I don't want to lose that side of me, because that's ultimately what markets the treats.
That's awesome. I'm looking at your right now.
The page.
The boys pulled up the page.
Yeah.
So is that Jay eating one?
Yeah. It's a few people eating it.
Oh, okay.
So,
All right. The thumbnail was Jay.
yeah.
Awesome. And we got Lex Little. I did see this. It popped up somewhere. I think you posted it up on your stories too.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really cool. The 2,000 grams of protein, 200 bonds. No, but I think that's the thing that people have to understand, because people always ask me, hey, Hany, how come you don't look like your athletes? Number one, I don't have their genetics. But number two, it's also because I'm always prioritizing. I'm prioritizing them over me, because I'm not meant to sit there and stand on the Olympia stage. Yep. And for me, the cobbler that builds shoes is the last to be able to make shoes for his own family, because he's trying to focus on his business. So for me now, being in Texas and I got a gym, this week has been great because I've been able to train. But in the past, it was really hard for me to drive a half an hour to a gym and then a half an hour back and then be able to spend an hour there. That's an extra 2 hours of my day that I was focusing on either Evogen or any of my athletes that are getting ready, or any of the other things I'm working on. Yeah. So I think that now you're getting a little taste of that, and it makes it very difficult. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because you're going to end up having this pull that says, do I want to build up my Vaughn'S treats, or do I want to be able to get up on stage? And there's going to be different times within your career where you're going to say, this is more important. Like right now, Vaughn'S treats, I'm going to take a year off. Because what's the plan right now with you and Matt Jansen?
So at the beginning of the launch of the company, that's kind of when I started to work with him. And I flat out, I kind of...
Can I ask you why you made a switch?
Switching coaches?
Yeah.
I think at the time we were going through this whole process, and I was going through a bit of a rough patch. So I needed somebody to kind of like be there in person with me, because I felt like that would hold myself like more accountable if I saw that person every day.
Got it.
Rather than...
And he's already in the office.
Yeah. So I see him literally every single day. But it was as Kyle at the time, having him live in Jersey, I'm in Florida, I felt like I started to slack off a decent amount. And even throughout my prep, because he wasn't there in person, I felt like I didn't give like 100% like what I had of my true potential.
Sure.
So when we went into the off season, just to be like safe on my end, I didn't want to turn to like a fat slob or anything. Okay. So I made the switch to Jansen, and even at the beginning of that process, like I said, I didn't do it the proper way, but I kind of told him that I just needed time to focus on this, because I was still learning how to do everything. And to be honest, I was having a really hard time with it, just trying to balance bodybuilding, the influencer side of it, the business. And I kind of took a step back from the bodybuilding side of it, just because the way I looked at it was that bodybuilding is always going to be there for me, but this is an opportunity that I have now, and pretty much only now, because if I push this off for a year, maybe that same pull or anything, it's not going to be there.
Sure.
But I could always pick up the fork in a year, start to bulk again, and then hop into a prep and do a show. But I just want to make sure I had everything squared away with this before I did focus on that bodybuilding, just because I didn't want to lose the opportunity with this. I did a switch, moved to Jansen, and I pretty much told him that I was having a hard time and I just need to focus on that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it makes sense, especially if you're seeing him all the time.
Exactly.
And you can be able to bounce ideas off of, or you need some motivation in regards to your daily grind.
Yeah.
Again, it's a whole different feeling when you get to see somebody in person, even if it's a couple days a week, or if it's you're like every day. That's which is very, very nice.
Yeah.
All right. So what we're going to do now is I want to get these questions done because we have a handful of these questions. We got the merch question answered. We talked about how you started the company. I think you pretty much nailed that one.
Pretty much, yeah.
And we talked about at the Young LA block party. What did you guys think of the bodybuilding world and the influencers? And I think we broke that down pretty well.
We hit that fairly nicely.
Yeah. And when are we going to see Vaughn back on stage? I don't think you have a date yet, right?
I don't have a date. I did mention that I wanted to take like a 1.5 2 year off season though. So anytime after that, once I get nice and large, I'll make a definite plan.
So do you think it's going to be sometime next year, or do you think it's going to be 2025?
Probably 2025.
Okay.
Yeah.
So again, Elliot Collins, 2025. Stay tuned on that one. You got good questions. So here's some questions. They want to think these are some hilarious questions. So again, it's for those of you who don't know Calvin. Calvin is the videographer for not only Raw, he's like the creative director, but he's also for, personal brand for Chris. And so he's always everywhere, and he's a nut. And somebody here is asking, Kayua, says, who's funnier, Vaughn or Calvin?
Calvin, for sure. He's very out there. So he always has something to say, and he's usually really funny.
He is.
Yeah.
And then the same guy actually, says, why do I hate on Vaughn? Do I hate on you, bro?
I don't know. You invited me here, so I don't know.
We ended up having a workout together, and we were here, so I don't see that much hate. But people always have some kind of weird perception.
Hey,
all
there's always
right,
going to be a weird perception.
It's funny. Let's see. What is your favorite split? Somebody's asking you about that. It's a workout thing. So, do you have a favorite split?
I'm not necessarily like favorite, but I feel like something I usually do is I'll do like chest and biceps, back and triceps, shoulders and arms, legs, and then throw a rest day in.
How often do you have rest days?
I do like 2-3 a week. I'll do 3 if I need it, but usually like 2.
Do you feel like your training is different and eating is different and everything's different since you've decided to go classic versus when you were physique, or do you feel like you were just training just as hard?
I feel like it's fairly similar because I did go into that prep thinking I was going to do classic.
Got it.
So I don't think much has changed, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because you were expecting to be classic.
Yeah.
And then you just basically said, no, I think I'll be more competitive to get my pro card, and that's what happened.
Yep.
And that's okay too.
Yeah.
So let's see. Okay, so we have a Jack Mac says, what's it like joining a brand like Raw and all those dogs? Also meeting people like Hany. I don't know. You can break that up however you want. But Jack Mac 03.
What's it like? I think it's awesome to be surrounded by that type of people, that group of people. Like I said before, we're all very like-minded. And when you put yourself in a room with like-minded people, you're going to excel at what you're doing. So it's definitely helped grow my personal brand, grow this brand.
Sure.
And even like it's very motivational seeing what obviously Dom is just a powerhouse.
Yeah.
So being around him is very motivational. Even Chris too, and Jen, literally everybody there. It's like you step in the room and you're like, wow, I just got to step it up. Yeah. So it's really cool to surround yourself with those people.
Yeah. I always say high tide raises all ships.
Yep.
So it's all of that. So I think it makes yourself, you're going to be more likely to become successful if you're around successful people. But if you're around a bunch of people that are constantly negative and constantly complaining, I don't know if you've ever been around those types of people.
Yep.
It just
I'm sure you have too.
Oh, a ton.
Yeah.
A ton.
Yeah.
And I think that some people that just are not happy with where they're at in their life because of whatever reason, and they want to blame people or blame things or situations instead of pulling themselves out of that. I think that you need to really make sure you separate that, because that negative frequency can actually affect you. Even though it's not you that's going through it, people around you are going through it. And if they keep bringing that negativity to you, it actually can create negativity in your own life.
Oh, for
sure.
So
negative things can happen because you're going to end up being in a completely different state of mind.
Yeah. I mean, the more you hear something, the more you're going to believe it.
Yeah.
So if that's all you're surrounded by, that's what your life is going to turn into. It's going to be a ball of negativity, and nobody wants that.
No, and life is not long enough for you to be able to be around a bunch of complainers. No. So if you got a lot of complainers in your life, cut them, let them loose. hopefully they get their head straight, and then you can bring them back in. And if they don't, then you might outgrow them.
Yeah,
and that's okay too.
Yep.
Okay, so let's see here. I think we have what kind of training. What kind of things were learned during our workout together? If you get a chance to train, so we did train.
Mm-hmm.
What did you take away from it?
I feel like the biggest
we did.
thing,
By the way, guys, we did chest FSC7 workout. So that way, whenever you do have that go live on your channel, my channel, we're going to go ahead and you guys can go over and check it out. But what was the takeaway?
That last workout that we did on that the super fly machine, I forget the exact name of it, but obviously doing the flies and incorporating those little things throughout those sets. I feel like we did 7 sets on that.
We did the FSC7
yeah.
set.
So
with 30 seconds to rest. That was your finisher.
Yeah, the push-ups in between, the hard flexing, and even those little like tweaks throughout the end of the movement where I was either doing like half reps or just squeezing at the bottom. That's something that I really I never did for my chest. I really only do that for like my legs.
Right.
So it definitely added that extra like oomph to the workout. I love that.
Yeah, you got super volumized. I think you got better mind-muscle connection from it.
Yeah.
You were sweating like a.
Yeah, I felt like I felt every single fiber in my chest like actually working, which was really nice. Because usually towards the end of my workouts, especially with chest, I feel like my front delts, they take over because of my chest. It kind of gets like sore and like, I don't know, just fatigued at the end. But whatever we did, I felt it the whole time. And even like before you came in here into the podcast room, I was sitting in this chair and I was like, wow, like my chest was like shaking. So yeah, it got me well. So I like that working a lot.
Yeah, because you'd never done FSC7 before that, right? Or you did it with legs once?
Only legs, yeah.
Okay, just a couple times?
You know Brett, right? Brett Wilkin?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he showed me like his version of it. And that's kind of where I learned it. So that was like the first time I ever done it. Was with like a leg workout with him.
We got to get him out here.
That'd be a very fun workout.
Yeah.
I mean, he's
a strong dude.
He's very strong,
yeah.
and he's like
super good guy.
Yeah,
super nice guy.
He'll finish his workout, and he's like, at least a leg workout. He'll finish his leg workout, and he's like, you know what? I'm gonna squat too, and then I'll go squat 6 plates for reps. And I'm like, I don't know how you do that.
It's just yeah. He's super strong.
Yeah,
he's super strong.
Big dude.
Yeah. What did you do your FSC7 sets on legs?
Leg press.
Leg press.
Yeah.
Was it at the very end?
I think we did it like halfway through the workout.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was interesting. He actually, at least what he told me or taught me was 5 sets of 12 with 30 seconds rest. It wasn't 7.
So he did FST5.
FST5, yeah.
Unless you already did a couple of warm-ups, but yeah.
Yeah. But just doing that, and it was a blood starving set too. So having your legs up the whole time, that really gets you.
Yes.
Yeah. You get out of the machine when you're done, and it's just like you feel everything rush to your legs.
That's right.
Just full.
Yeah. And a lot of that has to do with being able to really prime the pump. And what, you won't experience anything like it until you try it. Like everyone goes, like your legs go numb.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you get to the point where you just feel like you can't move once you get right side up and you start walking. Your legs just feel like your legs are almost asleep.
Yeah.
And
I feel like at that point too, my heart rate is just on 2,000. It's just going. So
yeah, you definitely can feel almost like a cardio effect to it too.
Yeah,
because you have such short rest times. Yeah. How many seconds were you waiting in between sets on legs?
30 seconds.
Ooh, okay,
so,
yeah. And we go when I do FSC7 with my athletes, depending on which exercise it is, we can push it up to about 45 seconds on the bigger body parts, like legs. And then on everything else, it's usually 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
So, yeah. But it doesn't mean that I won't do 30. But if I'm doing it, I've done it on squats with Seth Ferosi before, where we were doing, we were doing it on that. And we were doing 15 to 20 reps. And we were just, go set after set after set. And usually we're doing it about 45 seconds. And sometimes, again, if people are getting sick, you need an extra minute. Yeah. Why? Because, I was throwing up in the corner.
Yeah.
So it's like throwing up while you're doing your set.
Yeah.
But it's good. I think there were some good takeaways, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely learned a lot.
Yeah. So now we're going to see how you do. And so that way I would love to see what kind of gains you make when you get back home.
Yeah.
Change up your posing a little bit too. We need some posing.
I usually pose on my left side, but we tried out the right side today. And even those little things that you point out, like my upper chest, I felt like I looked like a little bit denser on that side too. So definitely going to switch that up. It's going to be interesting because it's going to be like learning how to walk again. But I feel like it would definitely help in the long run.
Yeah, I think that the other thing is that like guys like you with tattoos, what you got to do with anybody, doesn't matter if you have a tattoo or not, is always try to do side chest, side tricep on both sides. Because what might look good early on in your career can change. So you might think that, hey, look, this is not my good side, but your thigh fullness in terms of your hamstring drop, your conditioning in your glute tie-in, ham tie-in, your chest looked way better.
Looked a lot better
on the other side.
Yeah.
And so it was like, I'm like, dude, you got to practice this. And then as you do both sides, as you get closer to the show, then you can pick a side, but you practice on both. And that's where a big key takeaway is for those of you listening, make sure you pose on both sides. So if you're competing, you have the ability to switch if you look better on one. But if you try to do it last minute and you haven't practiced, you're going to look like dog shit.
You're going to look goofy up
yeah,
there.
You're gonna look super goofy because you're just not used to it. Or you're going to start shaking because you're like, wait, I don't know how to set my pose because you're not used to posing. And it's a very, very common mistake where people don't pose properly on both sides because not only can you be able to get better mind-muscle connection, but you'll also might be able to place higher if the side that you thought was really good is actually not as good as the other side. So again, that's why I said, try both. And then you were like, whoa, this is a really good side for me. Yeah. Try it out.
See, I didn't even know that just because I've never done it, I didn't know that look existed. So I'm just going to keep doing that from now on.
Yeah. You were kind of blown away, huh?
Yeah. Like, oh, wow. Okay.
I'm pretty good here. Yeah. And I said, not horrible. Yeah. All right. Well, Vaughn, I appreciate the time. It was great having you out here. Always. You definitely got to hit some barbecue before you leave, bro.
I think we're going to go right after this.
You're going to hit Heart 8?
Whatever. Is that the place right here?
Yeah. Heart 8's right up the road. I went with Calvin yesterday. He cleaned them out. And then he was bummed out that you guys couldn't make it.
What's like the best thing to get there?
Everything. Everything. So what you do is you got to get some ribs, a handful of ribs. Then you get some of I love the jalapeno sausage.
Okay.
Because it tastes absolutely amazing.
I'm sure they have brisket too, right?
Yeah, the brisket is awesome. So I get about 4 to 6 ounces of each and then just go nuts on that. But they've got steak, they got potatoes, they got a bunch of sides, coleslaw, like you can load up. Calvin went nuts,
the whole time.
Did you see it on social last night?
I did. But the whole time I've been here, you've been saying that I got to eat more. So I'm just going to pig out when we get there. I'll have a little bit of everything.
Yeah. Matt's going to call me up. Hey, man, what happened to this guy? He came to Texas and he gained 8 pounds.
Yeah.
But it's good. You'll burn it off.
Yeah. For sure.
Enjoy it. So again, guys, I hope you took away something from this. You have IFBB Pro athlete who's started his own company as well as, bringing in some amazing partners. And talked a little bit about the entrepreneur side, talked about a little bit about the athletes versus influencer side, and also being able to look forward to his next show. So Vaughn, thank you for joining us.
Of course,
I know it was a bit last minute, but I really appreciate you being here. Vaughn Walker, Hany Rambod, that's the truth.